We're in multimedia today. Guys, welcome. And as promised, we have the latest iTunes comment from Natty Boom Batty. Natty Boom Batty, a ebook is on its way to you. Faster Fat Loss and VTAPE manual.
we need the email.
The email.
Don't we?
Send that to us and we'll do it.
Yeah. So if you email us, Natty Boom Batty, at admin@propanefitness.com,
we will email you.
We will email you
with a special gift.
Your prizes.
Natty Boom Batty says, informative, funny, and if you're a fan of fact over opinions, this is the podcast for you. These guys are not your average fit bros. The lads cover a lot of ground in all areas of self-improvement, not just the physical, but the mental, spiritual, and lifestyle elements as well. Crucially, they actually walk the walk. Use of self-development experiments are always entertaining and occasionally even useful. So you're learning from someone else's experience. I only wish they made more of them. Keep up the good work.
More importantly, would you rather live in the wilderness, far from civilization, or live on the streets of a city as a homeless person?
Absolutely in the wilderness.
I love how I feel like... So the thing I find funny about reading these questions is, I look at it and think, Yusuf will think this is an obvious question. But I think the reason that it's on a website, a page titled, "The only would you rather questions you'll ever need," is that a lot of people find it hard. But so you would rather do in the wilderness?
I'm a big fan of...
There are no resources in the wilderness, other than natural resources, but like...
Yeah, I'd have to go a bit feral, but I would absolutely... I much prefer solitary confinement.
Because of the people?
Yeah,
right.
And so you and I Jonny and I were out a few years ago, probably the last time we've ever been out on the toon, and we saw a homeless man get pissed on.
Yeah,
and so people treat homeless
that
people... That
was traumatic, actually.
It was awful. It was an absolute dickhead that was doing it. Like, people treat homeless people with no respect, and I just feel like that guy who got pissed on was at the time was probably thinking, you know what, I wish I was in the wilderness. I wish I was just foraging for berries, because...
I wonder how hard it is if you are homeless and live in the city to get into the wilderness.
Yeah, you've got to walk a long way, haven't you? Because you've got no transport.
Unless you try and smuggle. I suppose the nice thing about, say, the train is that you can achieve some transport.
Well, actually, you can just get on any train, can't you? Like,
assuming the barriers aren't up.
Hop the barrier, or just get on a train until you get kicked off.
But then there's still no consequence.
There's a film about, what's it called, Lion, about a kid that gets on the train in India and ends up on the other end of India, and India's big.
Yeah.
So he didn't get charged by the ticket inspector.
So if you're homeless and listening to this, that's what to do.
That's the conclusion to
this
our
is
story.
A good one for you.
Okay.
I'm really interested to see what your answer is to this. Would you rather live somewhere without the internet or without air conditioning and heating?
I basically live without heating anyway, so...
Do you really?
Internet.
You just don't have it on?
To be fair, the heating's on now.
Right.
And it is flipping cold when it's not.
Yeah.
Okay. Because you would die, wouldn't you? Like, even in the UK, I
think
you'd die.
Really? That feels very extreme.
No heating whatsoever.
The only thing keeping us alive is heating.
So my heating broke a few weeks ago, and I was...
I remember.
Covered over, fully, like,
okay.
Rigors, and I was thinking, I'm going to die. But instead, I called up the heating company, and they were like, "Oh, we're going to have to disconnect your internet, and then your heating will come back on, because we've only got enough room in one pipe." So...
And you were like, thank goodness,
I was like, okay,
I'm
fine.
not going to die.
Yeah.
So you would rather live without internet or without heating? I knew this would be difficult.
What would you choose?
I suppose the first thing I think of is it'd be easier to get round lack of heating than it would without, because you can't like jimmy rig your own internet, can you?
Mm-hmm.
So you have to, whereas you could wear a lot of clothes. I don't know whether fire's allowed. Like,
yeah, because fire is heating, just because it's not high tech.
Well, then clothes are heating.
And polystyrene cups with string is internet. So
is it?
Well, it's
it's phone.
It's a form of peer-to-peer communication, but yeah. So
could you share a file? I suppose you could read the file.
Something I'd be really interested in for anyone listening, if you are a electrician or plumber or gas engineer,
will you fix Yusuf's heating?
Have you ever either done or been tempted to roll back your own meter? Because I've heard of at least one electrician that does do that on a frequent basis. Where he didn't roll it back; he just froze it.
But that means it
Free
can't be that.
electricity.
Is it that hard?
I think with the manual ones, it's fine, but the digital ones, not so much.
Yeah.
And then the smart ones, you've got to be an expert hacker. What's the next question? By the way, we do have a topic for
Yeah. We just haven't done... You've got to have a good purge, haven't you? Good clean the tubes out. Would you rather be able to control fire or water?
Fire would be more cool.
Actually,
but
no.
Water would be
Ignore
much more
that. That was a
useful.
shit question. This is another good one for
Okay.
you. Would you rather never be able to use a touchscreen or never be able to use a keyboard and mouse?
Again, no question.
Really?
Absolutely. Touchscreens are the biggest pain
You
in
can't
the
use
bum.
your phone?
I don't care. Like, I honestly,
Wow.
keyboard. Right. For anyone listening, the keyboard is your number one source of productivity. And if you read Juji Mufu's article on this, he is fully behind me on this. I'm going to do a seminar soon, or a webinar, on Alfred.
Because he doesn't like people, so
Yeah, he's
virtually.
But basically, the more you can keep your hands on the keyboard, the more you can stay on task. As soon as you start playing around with a mouse or a touchscreen or anything that involves just kind of mindless scrolling, you are destined to fall off task. So, keyboard, 100%.
Okay.
What about you? I mean, you're on a touchscreen right now.
Yeah, well, it would be keyboard.
Okay.
Because I think I would like a reason to have to give up this phone.
Well, you got the light phone, didn't you?
No, I just bought a shit phone for 20 quid. I didn't buy a 200 quid shit phone.
The light phone, for anyone that doesn't know, it looks like a credit card, and it stores 10 numbers, is it? And it can make calls.
I think it just throws all of your iPhone information to it when you ask it to.
Okay.
I don't know
it's
how...
quite advanced then.
Yeah. It's very...
For a bad phone, it's quite...
So you can, like, if I were going to dinner, didn't want to take my iPhone with me, you turn on the light phone app, and then suddenly your light phone becomes your phone.
I see. Whereas you got like a Nokia for people with hearing difficulties, with massive,
big buttons.
massive numbers, seeing difficulties rather.
Yeah.
And it only texts in capital letters, which I really, really enjoy.
You really appreciate, actually, like a QWERTY keyboard on a phone.
When you're doing like...
Oh my god. Yeah. Because it actually, what it encourages you to do is just call people. Because you start typing a text message.
I can't be bothered with this.
Bollocks to this, I'm just going to ring them.
So, today's topic is, what are the common features that we see in all of our clients that makes them successful? So, there are certain, and you can tell from the outset, from the first 20 minutes of speaking to someone, whether they are going to be one of these absolute gunners that just makes like flying progress or not. And there are certain aspects of their character and their timing that determine whether they are going to be a pro. And then you see them a year later and they've transformed their physique. People are commenting on how they've become infinitely more productive, and our Jonny is losing it for some reason.
I'm not even going to be able to explain why.
Okay. You've got to try. I mean...
Okay. So the reason I'm laughing is because I, for some reason, had a flashback to a couple of days ago. I was watching a video of Kelly Starrett, and I just thought that over time, I swear his head has become more swollen. Because you said something, and I was like, I remember the last time I watched the video of him, and I swear his face. No, it's a really recent one. His head just is outwards.
He's maybe got a problem.
I hope not, because now I feel terrible.
I think their heads do seem to get rounder with age, don't they? Whether or not they get fatter, it feels like you see someone when they're young and they've got square
round
jaw,
head,
small head, maybe like a slightly tapered, and then over time it's just... Yeah.
Strong guy competed in powerlifting meet actually recently.
Did he?
Did quite perfectly.
Feet perfectly forward.
Yeah,
of course.
Yeah. So sorry, I absolutely railroaded you there.
So, what are some of the commonalities that you see with your clients that make you think this guy's going to make it?
So in the first conversation, if they start talking about, if they start saying something like, oh, maybe we can change this slightly in 6 months' time, or, maybe after a year of trying this, we can adapt it.
Realistic timeline.
An understanding that it's, that not only does it take a while, but that they're willing for it to take a while, if that makes sense. Because I think accepting that it takes a long time to get abs or a big bench press or whatever is one thing, but actually saying, I'm willing to consistently action this stuff that you told me to do every single day for the next year is a different thing. Because I think actually, for a lot of people, they try a few things, realise, actually this is a year, I just can't be arsed.
Yep.
And I think that's more common than this is a year, bring it on. And so if those two things combined, I think tend to create a client that in a year's time they'll be their progress photos will be on our Instagram or whatever.
Yeah, definitely. I think also any evidence of neurosis around scale weight tends to be a negative factor. I think if someone is willing to trust the process and not be too stuck on their scale weight within short time frames, going up on Tuesday and then down on Wednesday and overthinking why that's the case and so on, and just trusting averages and trends, that person is just going to be able to take care of the inputs and then the outputs will take care of themselves.
Yeah. I suppose it's how do you... Because it's one thing as saying, this is what successful people do. Mm-hmm. But if... how do you know whether you're going to be successful?
Well, this is the fallacy, isn't it? That a lot of people online are reading books about what's this billionaire's morning routine, or what how do I think like a bit, and it's like, well, yeah, you can try and reverse engineer it, but there are also and there are things that will work if you start emulating that. And with billionaires, okay, it's a bit different because fat loss is it's not a zero-sum game. It's not a competition. And if you do the same things as someone else who lost fat, you will lose fat. Mm. You will
That's lovely, actually. I've never thought about that level.
It's a very, very wholesome experience. But, if you think about what's this billionaire done, he became a billionaire 20 years ago when the market environment was different. And, so actually, if you try and emulate that now, those inputs are outdated. But your body is still your body.
Have you heard someone's like, when aliens land on Earth, and everyone's lining up to ask them questions, and one dickhead shouts, "What's your morning routine?" We've not heard that before. I just think that's brilliant. It just summarises modern millennial content on the internet, doesn't it?
Oh, mate.
Oh, what's your morning routine, mate? How did you crack travelling faster than the speed of light? Well, I wake up and I journal. And then I meditate.
For 3 minutes, and then I start brewing my special coffee on a AeroPress.
And then I jump on a trampoline, and then go for a walk, and then I make a spacecraft that allows me to travel faster than the speed of light.
I take my probe for the humanoids, and I abduct one, and I begin my morning routine. So the other thing that I've seen, and Mike, if you're listening, we have a superstar client called Mike, Milk is his name, and
he does call himself Milk on social media.
He does. He basically over the last few years never really paid much attention to diet, to training, kind of had it trundling along, but never had enough activation energy to move things forward. When I spoke to him, he was like, "Right, I've had enough. I'm gonna do it. I'm just gonna jump in, starting this day." And a lot of people say that. You hear a lot of the, "Oh yeah, mate, diet starts Monday." But the difference is that when you actually see week 1, week 2, and there's no way to predict from the outside necessarily, but he just hit it with everything, fully transformed his habits, and ironically, it was all in one go, which we usually recommend people don't do because then it becomes this unsustainable thing. But clearly, he got to a point where he was so sick of the sum total of everything that had happened to that point. He was just like, "Right, I'm doing it," And here we are 8 months later. He's fully transformed his body, his mindset. He's way more productive. His mood is better. Everyone's commenting to him saying, what's got into you? Something's really changed. You seem to have really got it together. And what's this? There's his streak on
a meditation app. Because I'm friends with him on this meditation app. 145 consecutive days of meditation. And 107 hours of meditation since September 2018.
So it's almost an hour a day. Very consistent.
Very, very. I mean, for anyone who's ever tried, even just... So that's one small change that he's made across a whole spectrum of changes. If you've ever tried just meditating, it takes immense patience.
It's a great marker of discipline, actually. If you see someone, and that's it, that's like, there's a number there, and it's like, oh, well, that's instantly a marker of consistency, discipline, being able to sit with discomfort, and then, of course, being able to handle hunger, training consistently, all that stuff becomes quite easy when you've got this pulse of a habit that just takes you through your day.
So hearing you explain that, I think, reminds me of the first time that woman very nearly just crashed her car. Where we're recording this, if you're listening, we're sat basically in a bay window, so you can see there's a lot of things are happening. If you're watching, a lot of things are happening behind the camera a lot. I know you deal with this constantly, but for me it's quite novel.
When you see someone almost hitting your car, or actually hitting your car 3 times in the last few months for me, yeah, people knocking my wing mirror off. I just tuck it in now. And someone's just stapled a lost cat poster on.
It's like plumbing tape, isn't it? I think that's what that is.
I always thought the lost cat posters was a very cartoon thing, but obviously it's actually happened.
I wonder I'd love to see some data of how
the success rate, conversion rates.
I just can't believe they work.
Maybe it's a lead magnet. Maybe he's actually doing it to gain an audience, and then he's going to pitch something to them. He'll be like, actually, there wasn't a lost cat. This was very much like the...
have you ever thought that you need a better washing machine in your life?
You're like, I've been done again. What was that thing? Coney 2012.
So that rings a bell.
That was a viral video about some fake charitable fundraising thing. And it was really just it was either a scam or it was to pitch something.
Yeah, I remember that. Devious.
This lost cat guy is just doing it big style.
Maybe it's just the fire festival. And he's just promoting the fire festival.
Maybe that's it. So
what we're saying. Oh yeah. So the first time that I sort of successfully lost weight myself, the results of that are actually still on the Propane Fitness website. If you Google Propane Fitness Jonny transformation, you'll see it. Quite embarrassing. But the thing that triggered that was what you just said, which was I've had enough of this, and it's when things switch from this is a bit irritating, I'd kind of prefer to not, to be a bit leaner or whatever, switches to I'm pissed off now.
So it's not really hunger, is it? It's more just like
it's anger.
Yeah.
And I think if someone's angry about something, that the whole thing of you only take action when the pain of not doing it is greater than the pain of doing it. Mm-hmm. You almost need that to be the case for every time you have the situation and the thought of I'll just stay in bed, or I'll just go over my macros today, or whatever. You need the actually no, it really pisses me off when I look in the mirror in the morning to drive you. And
it doesn't mean that you have to be beating down on yourself all the time, or that you have to hate yourself.
You have to hate yourself.
You can. It's very possible to have that sense of being pissed off with self-compassion at the same time, because one drives your behaviour and the other drives your attitude towards yourself. It doesn't mean, because I think there's 2 camps with this. There's the idea that oh mate, I just need to love myself and learn to accept myself, and then there's this the whole camp of you should remain fat because self-love is what it's all about, which is a false dichotomy, but it's very carefully mixed in so that it slips by people. Actually, if you really loved yourself, you would take the steps to be the best version of yourself that you could be, and realise that regardless of how much you accept yourself in terms of being fat and out of shape, actually deep down you probably don't accept yourself like that, even if you tell yourself that you do, because otherwise you wouldn't be having this conversation with yourself about trying to accept yourself. So,
and certainly wouldn't be shouting about it,
absolutely,
telling other people.
Yeah. So the fat acceptance thing, unfortunately, people are prejudiced. The data shows that people see someone who is overweight and they conflate that person, without having met them, with certain characteristics of being lazy and being stupid are the common things that people associate with being fat. And so you owe it to yourself to remove those labels, especially if it's something that you're going to be carrying around and giving you huge benefits day to day. So
the rationale just doesn't hold up either if you carry it over to any other area of your life. Like, I love myself, so I'm just going to spend all my money, or I'll just sleep in and not go to work. I'll quit my job. I'll take something out of the cupboard and never put it away. I'll not clean up any of the dishes that I use because I just love myself, and so I shouldn't have to do anything difficult, or I shouldn't have to do anything that means that I slightly have to go out of my way for the gain of future me.
And it's like, yeah, you don't have to. You can
Yeah.
stay as you are, but
don't be inconsistent with your beliefs,
and don't be pissed off when nothing changes. This is a quote from the whatever you think of him, the Jordan Peterson book, where he was like, "Don't say I shouldn't have to do X, Y, Z to motivate myself. What do you know about yourself? You're somewhere between the most complex being in the known universe, and you can't operate your own microwave." And it's like, it's very true. Like, to say I shouldn't have to X. Like, well, unfortunately, you're not above that. We do have to treat ourselves like a kid sometimes, and this comes down to why we use cold turkey so much, which is an app on the MacBook or Mac that you can get, which basically, like, it's as if every time you go and get a slice of pizza, it just slaps it out of your hand, and it's completely brutal. Like, it's totally savage. It does not allow any leeway with this. And the great thing about it is that it just takes any of that decision making, any of that higher function out of the question, out of the decision making process. So you try and open Facebook, whatever, it just goes, no. And as a result, you don't have to then fatigue yourself with the decision making with trying to be disciplined, because it will just make those decisions for you.
Yeah. How did we get there?
Through being pissed off.
Being pissed off, and then self-acceptance, self-love.
So, and it's kind of annoying because these conclusions come out to quite glib things, but it's true, and the reason they're glib is because they're stereotyped, because they are the consistent factors in success in a diet or in a training program, which are being sufficiently pissed off. So, as you said, the pain of staying the same, it becomes so great that the pain of that it exceeds the pain of actually doing the work.
Yep.
Preparation and a realistic time frame, and also not being so neurotically obsessed with the little ups and down swings of body weight. Sounds like a little thing, but people get so caught up in that they end up self-sabotaging. And actually, if you have a 6-month or a year time frame with your progress, it just takes the pressure off, because then you know that you can just put the inputs in place, things go on in the background, it becomes second nature, and then 6 months later, you've taken your eye off the ball, but the habits have been doing themselves, and you wake up one day and you're like, oh bloody hell, look at all the progress I've made.
So in terms of how do you do those things, so how do you get mad at current reality, the easiest way to do that, at least in my experience for me, is use things that can be quantified. So take a photo of yourself in unforgiving lighting, so next to a window, take a photo of front and back, weigh yourself in the morning naked, look at your weight, try, you can go down the routes of like having your body fat estimated and things like that, but for most people, coming face to face with, this is how much I weigh and this is what I look like, that is reality. And that's, it's easy to, if you're unhappy with how you look, for example, or unhappy with how you feel, it's easy to dress in a way that masks that, or it's easy to tell yourself that it's not important. But if you come face to face with, this is the situation, if it upsets you, that's fuel to do something about it.
Love yourself enough to say, I deserve better than this. I deserve to treat myself, to treat my body, to feed my body in a way that is better than what I'm currently doing.
Especially if you've never experienced it before, it's the feeling you get when you tidy your room or tidy your house and everything's in order and everything feels much better, and you wake up to a tidy bedroom and you feel like a different person. You get exactly the same thing from walking past the mirror and thinking, bloody hell, I can't believe I look like that. Like, I didn't think that was possible. You're in an advantageous position rather than a disadvantaged position, purely from a decision you made with your diet and training. So, measure, take measurements, take a photo, weigh yourself, come face to face with the situation, and also just consider things like, how tired do I feel, how much energy do I have, what's my sleep like? Because if those things aren't great, chances are they feed off things that you can control.
100%.
So
you definitely owe. Yeah, these are things that you owe to yourself.
Your Match.com article.
Yeah, it just reminded me of an article that I wrote for Match.com, the dating website. They asked me to write
the big dating website that you've definitely heard of. Yusuf wrote for them.
So
just thought we'd mention it.
So they asked they asked us to write an article about body confidence. Now, I just want to really clarify that this is not about that there really is a distinction between being pissed off at the position you're in and separating that from who you are, and recognizing that actually it's the more self-hateful, it's the more self-destructive approach to not give yourself what you've been hungering for. But not literally. No, I don't mean cream cakes. I mean
not donut.
Yeah,
Abs.
You're hungering for abs. What a terrible analogy. Okay, but so here we go. Anthony DeMello, who can speak London much better than I can, says one understands one's self-worth when one no longer identifies or defines oneself in terms of these transient things. So again, it's separating the behaviour from the person. And you can do this with other people as well, and it's the best way to generate compassion for someone. Is someone's done something that's pissed you off, it doesn't mean they are a pissy person. It means that their behaviour was bad, but they might fundamentally be a good person, and so you don't then have to bring both down with each other. So the 6 tips to body confidence are on the website. You can check them out in the show notes for the link. There's also a video called "You Are Not Your Body Fat Percentage." Got a few comments on this of people saying this really shifted my perspective. But the key things are, number 1, understand your own programming, understand your biases, understand the way that people perceive you if you are a waste man, or if you are not in the, you haven't got the physique that you want. Number 2, strive to withdraw your identification from that physique. See it objectively. As Jonny says, get some objective, measurable things that you can...
Look at the numbers.
Number 3, rekindle your drive for physical, mental and spiritual growth rather than using the gym to fuel approval-seeking patterns. Number 4, start on a time-tested, evidence-based training and diet approach. I wonder where you can
if only there was a place that you could go that had all of that.
Oh, well, I guess you'll have to find somewhere, maybe, like if...
Like propanefitness.com.
That would be, yeah. And then fall in love with the process. Prove those results to yourself. And then as you start to gain that momentum, the sense of accomplishment persists beyond the physical. You start to recognise that you are capable of more, and that you deserve this. You deserve the fruits of your labour. And then allow that to start permeating the other dimensions of your life.
So I did a webinar recently that spoke about how when the 4-minute mile was first broken by Roger Bannister, it was then subsequently broken again like 2 months later by a guy called John Landy, and how crazy that is. This does have a point, I promise. How crazy that is that something's never been done and then it's done twice. So this idea that what is perceived as impossible is proven to be possible, and then suddenly it becomes much easier. And for people that, when we're helping clients, I think they perceive. So if someone's never been in shape before, or in a condition that they're happy with, body fat wise, physique wise, health wise, energy wise, whatever, they've never experienced that before. So they perceive that as a 4-minute mile. When they break through that, they tend to then break 4-minute miles in other areas of their life. So what we were mentioning about how Mike has a 145-day meditation streak, if we'd asked him a year ago, like, Mike, do you think that's possible? He'd be like, well, come on, that's a massive... But suddenly, you transform yourself physically, and then, as you say, like, then you find yourself doing more meditation. You find yourself, accidentally, you've done a triathlon, or, a guy called Denzel, who's another client, did a triathlon and a powerlifting meet.
You've then empowered yourself. You've been like, well, you know what? I've done it before. I can do it again.
I'll do it again.
It's easier to... And, like, you've created that neural pathway. You've greased the groove. Your body is now at a new set point, and so then even if you fall out of shape, it's much easier to get back into it, to retrace steps that you've already done, than it would be to create that new uncharted territory.
So step 1 is get mad, get cross, get angry with your current situation, and then accepting that it's going to take a while, that it's not going to happen in 28 days or 6 weeks or 12 weeks, but you need to be set on the right path, because the worst thing you can do is accept that this is going to take a year and spend a year being patient but doing the wrong things, or doing things that are heartbreaking, isn't it?
Well, we've been there.
Yeah.
We've been following really hard programs,
yeah,
but just doing it wrong, like eating far too many calories but of all clean food, like ploughing in the broccoli and boiled liver. That was a big one for me. Eating a kilo of boiled liver a day with loads of broccoli and stuff. Yeah, and that was about 3,500 calories. Trying to lose fat, retching every time I ate, not enjoying the fact that I was overeating, and not going towards my goal. And I did that for probably 18 months or a year. So, we've just been through. The point is, we've done so many really stupid experiments that needed quite a lot of effort and a lot of willpower. And so, as Jonny said, what you don't want to do is apply all of this energy to something and actually have the wrong method, because then you stumbled at the first hurdle. And that's where we come in. That's where, if you subscribe to our podcast, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and put in your details into our calculator, you'll get your macros, and it'll give you the target macros that are evidence-based, along with some of the experience we've had from clients, to over 2,000 people that we've worked with, to adjust that and make sure that you're moving in line with your goal.
So that's the starting point. If you don't have a starting point, go get that. So go use a calculator, and go pick up, unless you've read a review, unless you've given us a good review and we sent this to you for free, you can go pick up Faster Fat Loss or the V-Taper manual for pennies compared to what most people charge for programs. So that's a good starting point. And then, honestly, what you'll find, what we find, certainly everybody we work with finds, is that you tend to lose steam on your own when you account for the fact that in a month's time you probably aren't going to look much different. Like, the scale may say something different, photos may be slightly different, but realistically, if you've got a good amount of weight to lose, you are talking about probably the next year of your life to make a dramatic transformation, especially if you're new to this stuff. So that's why we offer coaching services. That's why people hire personal trainers, because accountability creates the consistency. But I think that something that most clients that I have realize that they wouldn't have guessed beforehand is that when people think of getting in kind of bikini body or beach body shape, they think of this perfect 16-week diet where everything goes perfectly right and everything goes 100% to plan, and there's no deviations, no cheat meals, no holidays, no nothing. When actually the people who end up being really successful just shoot for just chipping that average weight down every week, and eventually they get there.
Really unsexy.
It is, yeah. Something I say to my client, they have a bad week, and I'll say, if all you do is every week your average weight is down by a negative number, you will eventually reach your goal.
And quite often their idea of a bad week is something subjective, but their weight is down.
Yeah.
And that was the goal. And you're like, well, hang on, if we look at the numbers, this was a good week. So, yeah, it might feel like a bad one, but how you feel is irrelevant, really, because the numbers that you're aiming for have fallen into place.
And I suppose that's what comes with, because once you're annoyed enough to start making this change, you've acquired you know, like, okay, as long as I stay on this road, I trust the process enough to get me to where I want to get to. It's then, well, how long can I stay on the road for without having a dramatic derail? And that's what just comes with just learning to enjoy the day-to-day, or make the day-to-day as enjoyable as possible, and accepting that all you got to do each week is just edge forward. What is even the topic of this podcast?
The successful traits.
They've got everything they need now.
You got a whole lot, including 6 steps for body confidence, and the answer to why keyboard is far better than touchscreen.
And that a lack of heating will kill you.
Yeah,
that's the biggest thing I've learned from this podcast.
Fact. There we go.
Facts.
Okay,
Bye.
guys. Bye-bye.